Hello, everyone. Exhibitors, we have some speakers that I'm sure you're going to really find interesting today. My name is Bob Spencer. I'm on the board of directors of CAV. I'm also the director of the Windham Solid Waste Management District in Brattleboro. And I'll be speaking this afternoon about our new upgraded composting facility. And there's a tour there tomorrow at 10 for anyone traveling around the state. So, so thank you. You are in the Optimizing Organics session, how technology is advancing composting. We're going to start with Sashti Balasundaram of We Radiate. He started working in Brooklyn and has been in this space for over 15 years, in government, academia, not-for-profit. He got into the entrepreneurial world of technology for improving operations in data and digital data collection and remote monitoring of composting piles. We Radiate also strategizes with governments to initiate and expand organics recycling programs. He has a Master's of Public Health from Columbia University in New York. So we have 20 minutes allocated for each speaker. I'll give them a little heads up at 5 minutes, and then we'll have questions right after the session. For you.
Okay, cool. Free range here. Free range chickens, free range compost. Good morning, good afternoon. My name is Sashti, and thank you for choosing this session. I know you had multiple options, so I appreciate you guys being here this morning. First session of the day. So what we're going to talk about is some research that took place a couple of months ago in terms of windrow systems in private and a small scale facility. So I have a company called We Radiate, and our whole goal is, can we revitalize soil? I like to say that an apple a day kept the doctor away. That is no longer the case. We need to eat 5 or 6 apples to get that same amount of nutrients, minerals, and vitamins, just because our soils have degraded over the past few decades. That is through fertilizers, pesticide use, but also how our conventional ag system is tending the land. So with us, we are trying to put these minerals, vitamins back into the soil. Our end goal is, if we could create healthier soil, we could create healthier food, and hopefully create healthier ecosystems in people and communities. And we are doing that through both technology that we are building in the East Coast. So are these insights valuable to sort of understand our processes? So we have a facility in New York State that we're working with, and we have equipment in the field that is tracking valuable information to improve operations or provide alerts, and that's sort of already ongoing with several states. So we work with both farmers, we work with municipalities, as well as I said municipalities, farmers, and private facilities or public facilities collecting, whether it's food scraps, manure, or horticultural debris. Michael was here before. I think the theme of this year's is sustainable communities. So we also do some fun stuff working in communities or with governments. One is a New York City compost bike tour. I think Alex would mention that CAV does a three-day bike tour. We don't do 3 days. We just do maybe a couple of hours, but it is an idea and concept of learning hands-on and going to different sites across the boroughs to discuss themes of waste reduction, getting involved with policy and education. So that's something that we do both at a local level, but also we are now working with municipalities as well to help them develop organics management plans. We started one recently with a Western New York county. And sort of that social impact key is also important. As a background in public health, I also was a school teacher as well. So recognizing that the law is one thing, but guiding others to follow that sort of legislation is key as well. So we support municipalities with education, logistics planning, operations as well. So what is the tech? What is the equipment? What does the data look like? Essentially, it's called a theme called plug and play. You have the equipment as the hardware that lives outdoors, that lives in cold Buffalo weather. I don't think Buffalo is as cold as Vermont. I grew up in Buffalo, so I'm saying that as the city. But then also lives in California as well, where Michael is from in LA. We do have some colleagues out there using the equipment. So the hardware is connected to a software platform. And then the connectivity is on that final slide that is providing or using radios. So we use something, we don't use Wi-Fi, we don't use cellular to connect this data. It's a concept called LoRa, L-O-R-A. It means long range. So like you're listening to music in your car or through a radio station, it's that same type of concept of radio frequencies from collecting, transmitting, and then seeing that data. The connectivity piece, all we need is probably have an electrical outlet on site, and that gives it enough of a radio frequency or coverage to collect and share that information. So what we're going to talk about is, what if that site is very remote and does not have electricity on site, which can happen in Vermont or Maine or New Hampshire or even in New York State. So what we tested last year was using solar panel, solar power. So this is off-the-shelf material, nothing too high-fly, but you could find it on Amazon, and essentially using the sun's energy can collect enough information to create this radio communication where we're now able to collect and transmit data without needing electricity on site. So this is a small solar panel that's there connecting to a battery and using just a couple of inserts to get the right fittings for the electrical outlet between the solar pack and the gateway. Cool. So the research is, what does that say? Increasing diversion of food waste from landfill. So we were working with a couple of locations in New York State to do this research study. We received a grant from RIT. RIT is the Rochester Institute of Technology. And they wanted to see if there's any changes with manual operations of data collection versus digital information or digital collection using our equipment. This is actually the summary of it. I have to see, I don't have my glasses to look at that, but we did see that there was about a 31% reduction in operation time. So that is a third-party validation that that using sort of digital data and equipment can save labor hours, operational hours, and therefore and so forth. So we're very excited to share this information as sort of that summary that RIT did with us. These were the locations that we tested with or have been working. So one is in LA. It is not with LA Compost, but it is with another location out in Los Angeles. One is in Rochester, New York, and one is in Leroy, New York. These are the other locations where they tested and experimented with the equipment and data. And it's a big facility. So this is the site. The windrows are several, at least 100 feet long, and you could see the volume of material being collected and processed in that location. And this is pretty off-grid. It might be about a 45-minute drive from Rochester, downtown Rochester, so it is in a rural location that is processing, has material, but there's no electricity nearby. We put a couple of our, so the equipment, if plug, I know there's a lot of tours, a lot of opportunities to see different spaces tomorrow. If you are able to attend the Middlebury tour at 10 o'clock, you could go and see the sensors and the equipment on site. They are about 3 feet in height and length, and they are at the Foster Brothers Farm in Middlebury. So essentially it's 3 feet long, leave them outdoor, you push them in the piles, and that is enough that you need to do to collect and send and transmit that data. So that's just living there for several weeks, several months. Battery life is really good for just off-the-shelf AAA batteries that last for about a year, and we're able to change the frequency of data collection as well. So we had them in a couple of locations within that windrow, and the next is sort of what the data looks like, even in this off location. So we did see that on the top, it's above PFRP, which is what we need to see in this information. So it's above 131 Fahrenheit, pretty key and critical. And that's important because there's maybe a person that goes there twice a week. Whereas PFRP, you need to be there to ensure that over a number of days, right? Consecutive days, at least 7 days, maybe 11 days consecutively. But if staffing is limited, you're able to now look at it on your phone or your desktop. You could be at home or at your office and ensuring that you're hitting PFRP temperatures. So there's sort of two graphs, but essentially what we're showing is that if it's, what this information can also showcase is alerts. Let's say if it does get too hot. We do work with clients where spontaneous combustion is an issue. So we can send alerts to the managers or the compost operators saying, you're getting to 170, you're getting to 180 Fahrenheit. Please go to this location immediately, aerate it out, put water on it. So that's an opportunity for seeing this digital information. We could reduce the number of site times we could be on site. This is all digital, but we could also pull this into a report. So all this can be pulled into a specific spreadsheet, then you could send directly to the DEC. Or let's say you are selling this onto the market. This transparency is also key to say, hey, a farmer got weed seeds. Well, now let's look back at the data. We can now verify based on this batch. We hit 155 Fahrenheit, which kills weed seeds, to ensure that this batch of soil amendment or of compost is reaching these standards. You could also look at the data for the past 5 years pretty seamlessly online. So along with sort of this information, they made the decision, we don't have to be on site every single day, which is easing their operations with easing their time savings. So this was key information that for at least temperature was pretty powerful and valuable for them to understand as an organization. We could also write notes and messages. So let's say somebody does go on site, instead of if you need to aerate or if you need to water, you could actually write notes and messages on this dashboard, and multiple people can see that information all at once. So this is a research summary, sort of share that first bullet point where there was a labor reduction with using the equipment. And that, along with that, is improved confidence. So they're making sure that they're in that sort of regulatory compliance range where now they can test and maybe modify their feedstocks or their ratios. So that's sort of looking into the future of how can we improve or make this process go a little bit faster so they could understand, I have to sell X amount of material, is it ready? So that's sort of where we think the data can be valuable as well. Bob, am I on time? Am I good? I think Bob hasn't shown anything. I'm good with time, right? 5 minutes, perfect. And the last one is just reducing the number of site visits. So next steps for research, what we're looking into is how do we repeat this and repeat it with different sort of influence of seasonality or ambient conditions. This was done in the summer of 24, but what does it look like in wintertime? How does precipitation, how does wet weather, winter weather, hot weather sort of affect this, this PFRP or this data collection? We actually received a SARE grant last year as well. SARE is an acronym for Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Grant with the USDA. We are working with a farm in Pennsylvania to see if there's any sort of nutritional differences or the quality of that final compost by doing more analysis or sampling. So based on different feedstocks or different ratios, do we see any nutritional differences as well? So these are sort of future steps of that research. And then can we test with different equipment? So some of the sensors that we're beta testing or trialing with is using humidity and relative and moisture, trialing out different depths of temperature collection. So we do have a dual temperature monitor system that we've seen 30 to 40 degrees difference in just 12 vertical difference. So let's say this is a 3-foot probe. There'll be multiple temperature devices, and within that same vertical, we'll see almost 30 or 40 degrees Fahrenheit differential. But getting that done on solar, we want to check that out. So let's connect. I did mention about the compost tour in Middlebury. I'll be connecting and collaborating with our colleagues from AgriLabs with Brian and team. So if you want to check out the Foster Brothers Farm in Middlebury at 10 o'clock, you could see the equipment in person. You could see how it works complementary with other compost equipment or technology, such as AgriLabs as well. So that's just a push or nudge to be able to check out that site. There's also a couple of grant opportunities. They did look live when I checked on them recently. So these are up to, I think, $4,000 to $5,000 as well of grant opportunities for within the state of Vermont. And I would love to connect with more Vermont farmers, or if there's any cooperatives or ag extension contacts as well, please chat and connect with us. We have a booth right at the end. So that is sort of my last slide, and this is my information if you want to get to know more about us and our equipment or just schedule a demo. So thank you for your time. Bob is asking, are there any questions with the remaining time that we have? A couple of minutes left. Dan has one.
How many rows are you
Cool question. So for this, yes, thanks. So how many devices can be seen on a dashboard in the field? Is that fairly correct? Cool. In a dashboard like this on one client site, we could have maybe up to 100 devices on a single dashboard. So we are, a couple of clients have several dozen at a time, and we're also developing a mobile web app to sort of see that information more clearly as well in the field. So multiple units all at once together. Yes. The question is, are we doing other parameters besides temperature? Besides temperature, we are getting interest with moisture and relative humidity. So we are beta doing that. We've done a couple of, we have a couple of clients using both temperature and relative humidity together. And we want to be able to expand that. So we are updating that and sort of upgrading that equipment to hopefully be on the website more live and share it with more composters across the country.
Well, thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Very nice. Yeah, great tool, and I want one. We go out with our handheld thermometers, and but wasn't in the budget. So I'd like to introduce Tess. She's right here, and she's with she's co-founder of Epic Renewal. It's a Rhode Island-based composting organization reimagining our approach to waste. She's a designer and strategist, passionate about creating positive impact through meaningful design. Her multidisciplinary background drives her to seek innovative solutions to complex challenges. She's helped clients such as WWF, Doctors Without Borders, World Bank Group to drive change at scale. Her work now focuses exclusively on climate change interventions rooted in climate justice, waste, soil health, and food systems. She graduated from Rhode Island School of Design in 2014 with a bachelor's in industrial design. We got some talent here, folks, so Tess, take it.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to get this like a foot shorter. Hi, I'm Tess. I'm so thrilled you're all here, and I'm so excited to talk about this work. You'll see as I get into it, it overlaps closely with the other two conversations. But I might have to do the free range thing. Okay. So to give a little bit of context on where we're coming from in this work, we are Epic Renewal. We're Clicker. Ooh, thank you. Great. We're community composters working to keep food waste out of landfills and use it to build healthy soils and nurture equitable and resilient communities, food systems and communities. But we also work with composters throughout the country to help scale their impact. We were founded in Los Angeles in 2016. We are one of those little startup composters that Michael supported and was an incredible mentor to in our time there. We ran there for 3 years doing pretty traditional curbside composting, events, businesses, and residents, and really, really loved our time there, but ultimately decided that we were ready to move back home. So we're now based in Rhode Island, but we work throughout New England, and we still work with all of the composters throughout the country. We focus in a couple different areas in our work at this point. Primarily, our hauling and processing work now centers on zero waste events and commercial clients. If you want to geek out on any of that stuff, it's very fun and gives us a really good opportunity to talk to a lot of people about this topic when they might not otherwise be interested. Our second half is the working with composters side, and that looks like R&D in our composting systems. We specialize in bokashi composting and indoor work, and we've also been working on software for community composters. So what that looks like. Looking at a composter's regular day of operations, it typically centers on collection, hauling, processing, and then end product sales. There are a myriad of data points that are critical for different audience members throughout each of these stages. And when you start adding in what each of those stakeholders need on a regular basis, it becomes extremely overwhelming. Most of our composters who are working at a smaller scale or a decentralized scale are pretty bootstrapped small teams who are doing the hauling themselves, they're doing the processing themselves, they're engaging volunteers, they're working in really versatile and scrappy ways. And often this kind of load for data is critical for them to grow, but really difficult for them to actually capture and achieve with the bandwidth and resources that they have. So this slide's gonna look familiar. Meet Michael. I'm gonna have to change this next week. But he's my go-to example because their LA Compost is an easily understood model that reaches a ton of people. They have, I'm sure these are low now and need to be updated as well, but they have about 20 staff and 43 compost sites throughout Los Angeles. You saw with Michael's photos, each of those is culturally responsive, unique, built for the community it's in, and run differently. And they each have different communities who engage with them. They incorporate every kind of composting process. There's windrows, there's worms, there's bokashi, there's all different kinds of stuff. And there's all different kinds of people showing up in those spaces at every time of day, every method of engagement. It's incredibly hard to actually know what's going on those compost sites at a data or operational level. So usually, by the time Michael or one of his teammates needs to put a report together for a funder or a grant, he's spending an enormous quantity of time aggregating information amongst his staff, and very likely not getting a bunch of information of other people who've interacted with, taking care of that pile, added to that pile. So for an organization like LA Compost that works with a really diverse network of folks in a number of ways, it's really hard to understand their metrics quickly. We're pretty confident that Michael and an enormous quantity of our peers throughout the country have been underreporting our impact for the last 15 years or so. And I'm sure you've seen when you try to look up national data or understand kind of where we're at in the landscape, both within and without Vermont, there are massive gaps. We're not counting people who are composting in their backyards. We're not counting people who are running 43 compost sites. We're not counting those little community gardens that are doing an enormous amount of work for their neighbors. So when we think about this food waste reduction and processing infrastructure, we actually are thinking about something much less small and comprehensive than what is actually out there. And a lot of times this work is not being taken seriously or even understood or in the awareness of a municipality when they're deciding what their strategy for the next 15 years looks like. So on a daily basis, This kind of information is largely getting captured with a pen and paper on clipboard. I wasn't sure my slide transitions weren't going to work, so you all got spared my really gross leachate covered clipboard. But this is what we've been trying to do. You can download our app now. It is messy, it's scrappy, it's not all the way there. We're enormously proud that we have so far been exclusively funded by community composters and competition prize funding. That means we've gotten to build it in the way we want, we've gotten to center on the values we want, and we've been prioritizing community composters because we believe they can move the needle pretty quickly. And we're at a critical point where we're watching an enormous quantity of these community leaders getting edged out by their municipal waste management plans, most often just because there's no understanding or connection there between the people making the decision and the work actually happening on the ground. So we're seeing people get shut down, kicked out of business, having huge haulers come in and take over the entire contract, where something like a 10% earmark of that food waste or that landfill diversion could keep 20 of these organizations running in a city. So we see this critical intervention point. But we're also very aware that when we talk about the food waste infrastructure and we talk about diversion, we can't just be talking about community composters. We can't just be talking about small scale. We can't just be talking about diversified and decentralized. We have to think about everything. We're really firm believers that there's no silver bullet. You know, Michael spoke to it really clearly. This table is huge. We have an enormous, hairy problem that is really a resource opportunity. We think about it like it's waste. It's actually this beautiful, incredible resource that we're underutilizing. So we believe the table's pretty big. Rhode Island has 9 professional composters. We're the smallest state in the country. We also almost exclusively full state represent at our national conferences, and we all work together as an ecosystem and community. So we're thinking about this stuff at every scale. And we know that the systemic infrastructure and policy space is really important for large-scale decision-making, where funding goes, what happens with land siting and property decisions and permitting. We are also aware that local systems, community-driven systems, are critical for actually reaching volumetric goals and create an enormous amount of resilience in the systems we're creating. We can reduce trucking miles, we can plug people in together. When one composter hits capacity all of a sudden because they had some huge influx of something, other folks can plug in and support. And then when we actually think about the whole landscape, we're kind of forgetting everyone doing this work in their backyards. That's a pretty big impact too, and that's a huge shrink of hauling and responsibility and funding purpose. So as I'm talking about the software we've been building, I want to preface that I'm going to be talking about community composters. But we've built a pretty simple and straightforward tool that's batch oriented, and the intention is for it to apply at every level. But the data itself, which is what I'm centering on today, not the technical capacities of the app. If you want to get really geeky on it, my co-founder's over there at the table. He's our tech person. He can answer how the thing works, what it's capable of. But I'm going to talk about what we can do with the information we gather from it. Our goal in producing this tool was to help make composters' lives easier, both on the ground and in the way they grow. That looks like capturing their key data points on site. It looks like understanding what's happening across different communities of team members, volunteers, other folks interacting. It looks like being able to quickly pull out a regulatory report or really quickly pull out diversion from the last year across a myriad of sites and individuals. And ultimately, we see that improving operations and helping people optimize and get more efficient with their time and their sanity. But we think that all these data points are pretty critical for building a platform for growth. We've seen a lot of these smaller scale, diversified, decentralized composters either fall off the map because of their municipalities or other decisions that are getting made way above the level they're working at, or because they're simply burning out and not accessing the resources or funding that may be out there because they don't have the time to capture this stuff and tell their story meaningfully. We also very, very much intend for this tool to plug in directly with Sashti's work and Stop Sweet's work and be able to automate a lot of this data capture as well. But the goal in our starting was, how versatile can we make this? How quick and easy can we make this? How do we make this something we constantly break and update and input information to and try to keep growing? And then when we think about all those other stakeholders we need to report to, we see value that we can add here. We see the ability to export one of those reports directly to your municipality and show the portion of their climate strategy goal you're contributing to. We see the opportunity to not spend hours and hours and hours on your grant report. We see the opportunity to make permitting easier because all your regulatory data tracking is already happening and it's organized and you don't have to digitize it from clipboards and binders. And then we see the opportunity to support our customers, our clients, our community who are plugging in with us. Adding on that, this can work just as well in your backyard, and we're really excited to put that data into this mix as well as we go forward. This was a kind of powerful moment in our research experience. I'm concerned this person might not have a job at the moment, but I was speaking with one of the women responsible for collecting our national level composting data of what food waste is actually being diverted. And that data is critically impactful on where federal funds go in terms of our waste management strategies. And she quite literally said to me, I want to go be able to fight for you. I see what you're doing. I see the role it plays in the ecosystem. I see why it matters. I don't have enough information to do that for you guys. I don't know what you're doing. I have no transparency. I don't know what's going on. So I can't say they're achieving X, Y, Z, and it's incredibly impressive. Sometimes we don't know ourselves. For us, this seems really solvable and like a really clear opportunity for impact and change. So the case study I'm going to roll with will overlap with Sashti a bit, and Michael. But the biggest funder of our development so far and our research so far has been this Community Composting for Green Spaces grant. We had the privilege of being one of the founding members in the California Alliance for Community Composting. So when this state level funding happened, even though we'd already left, we were still being considered as a piece of this team and ecosystem, and we're excited to figure out how we could fit in and make the reporting on this grant easier. So this was a big statewide grant. It's gone through 3 phases. I'm going to be talking about data from the first phase, but you'll see my photos that are coming up are from everywhere throughout the process. They did so much incredible work with so little money, and they proved incredible stuff. This is just from the first round. I'd say these numbers probably are more than doubled at this point, but they just in this first round, which I think was 2 years, they launched 105 new community compost sites. And grew 120 existing ones. And again, those look like everything across the gamut. They're all over the state of California. Some of them are people who've never composted before, but who are food access leaders in their communities, or lead important community spaces, or are farming, and wanted to build this stuff in, but don't have time, capacity, or skills. So we have the ability to go do these incredible soil stewardship trainings and have people tell us what they wanted to learn, how they wanted to build their sites. Several of them have Sashti's sensors, and we're getting really interesting data from that of what's happening when they're not there, how the weather is affecting them. But this is an incredibly resilient and creative group of people all over the place doing unique, special, and meaningful work. And I'll talk about what that looks like in a minute. There's a small second set of data I'm including in here, and this is the community composter census that we do every 2 years throughout the Institute of Local Self-Reliance in our Community Composter Coalition. Michael is in the back towards the center with Anjali waving. I'm towards the front left, Sashi's right behind me. This is everybody we love. This is like an incredible community of folks. These are all the people fighting their butts off every day to serve their communities. They are all here for the right reasons. They are all doing it for well-being, health, community engagement. They are not doing it for themselves. They are breaking their backs. They're struggling financially. They're under-resourced and underappreciated. And if you talk to a single one of them about their story, the impact and story and meaning that comes out of it is like what Michael just gave you. Every single one has a different story and background and intent that is very similar and very deep and very important. And it's my very long-term dream to just drive around the country and tell all of these stories. Each of these sites are places of healing, belonging, love, growth, sharing, and celebrating. They're all unique and special and open and welcoming. So with our census, we've got about 500 organizations in the Community Composter Coalition now. This first census represented about a fifth of that at the time. So it's got some gaps, but it was a very long census, so we're really happy we got like what we got. But the folks in the Community Compost Coalition, again, range pretty widely. We've got folks in cooperative models using large-scale equipment. Earth Care Farm in Rhode Island, which is a 3-generation family farm working at large scale. They run the Compost podcast. They're fabulous. They're large scale. They often don't get considered a community composter. They absolutely are. So the definition here is not scale, it's value set. It's supporting your community while doing this work and not just thinking of it as waste management. And you can see, like, there are folks doing incredible education. There are folks bike hauling. This one towards the right is our friend Jeffrey, who is doing his entire apartment building's food waste in their basement and engaging all of them and getting them excited. And they're all incredible and unique and special. So just running through some quick numbers of why this work matters and the story that we want to share. The green stats are the stats that come from the CCGS program, and the blue stats are the stuff that comes from the census. So to begin with, what we found on this first CCGS program is we were able to divert quite a chunk of food scraps across these sites with very few people. Pretty significant CO2 offset. And basically throughout 120 sites kept the equivalent of 376 fuel-powered cars off the road for a year. What's really interesting in this work, and this is my favorite stat here, is they reached a tonnage cost for processing of 104, which is less than a third of the national average for industrial scale composting. To me, this makes a pretty strong case of why this should be considered as a piece of the equation. We can do this work cheaper and deliver a number of results. We still need the big guys. We still need all the large stuff. That's great. We also need this stuff, and it's still affordable, and it's still meaningful. And a lot of the large guys are also only taking large yard waste, which is not necessarily considered when we're thinking about diversion opportunities. Community composters are hiring more folks, and they're hiring more inclusively. They are significantly more likely than the industry average or just the national average to be hiring lower moderate income individuals, BIPOC individuals, hard to employ individuals with barriers such as post-incarceration. They represent the LGBTQIA community much more significantly than other spaces. Community composters are creating 4.5 jobs for everyone at an industrial site, and they're creating 6 for everyone at a landfill. What was cool on the CCGS program is every single person who was full-time got $23 an hour. Every single person who worked hourly got $23 an hour. Everybody got paid equitably on this project. And most of them had been doing this work already for free, so it was really nice to actually recognize and reward that work. They're focusing on underserved sites in both rural and urban spaces. They're focusing on education. They are largely creating big food access opportunities. They're supporting initiatives that don't just look like environmental initiatives. They look like Department of Health initiatives. They look like community well-being, public education. A lot of these sites, I love this one. I pulled it out. There's one that's like almost all of them have permanent seating. They're all acting like parks, and they're all acting like education gathering spaces. They're critical food access points. They're critical places of belonging for the elderly, folks with disabilities, kids, everybody. So they're filling these niches that are critically important, and folks don't even know they're here. And this is the stat that really kind of broke me a couple years ago, is almost a solid third of them are not making a living doing this work. And their work isn't being recognized, and they're not getting paid. And in the census, this is kind of where we landed on our biggest barriers to growth throughout our industry. There's a lot here. What I do want to highlight is that nearly all of these, at least the green ones, can be solved by understanding our numbers and sharing them confidently. So we feel really privileged to get to help capture all this stuff and brag on their behalf. But we see a really big opportunity to take things like StopSweet and We Radiate and take all this information we're already working with, make it easier to gather more, and activate it for meaningful change. So we hope you'll get involved in whatever way works for you. If you're a backyard composter or an active composter, download it, try it out, try to break it, give us feedback on how you wish it was different. Know that it's not all there. It's definitely not all there, but we want it to be what everybody wants. So we will take any and all input. It is always valuable. The more people playing with it, the better. But also, anything around this topic, feel free to reach out or grab us. And if you want to learn more, please go see my co-founder over there. Thank you so much. Are there any questions? Okay, thank you. Yeah.
How many people are using it now?
Right now, we've got 120 users. I wouldn't say they're using it consistently. Like, we don't even use it on our site consistently. It doesn't work for us, which is hilarious. But we have 120 people throughout the country who are futzing with it on a pretty regular basis. All right.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thanks, Tess. I love the enthusiasm. You can't beat it. So we have another guest, Brent Arnold. He's a composting industry pioneer with over 10 years of experience. He co-founded Community Composting in Rochester, New York. We got an upstate New York thing going here today. As the company's primary driver in its early years, Brent gained firsthand knowledge while simultaneously developing software platform to manage collections, track trucking, routing, customer support, and billing. When other haulers expressed interest in the technology, Brent launched StopSuite as a standalone solution. Today, TopSuite serves about 100 compost collection companies across North America and more than 180,000 end users. Cheers, Brent.
Thank you. You won't be able to see it here. Oh, okay, so I have to peek around. Okay, great. Okay, off to a good start so far. It's all good. Oh, I broke it too. And the batteries came out as well. And it has rolled under the podium. Yeah, thank you. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, I can't see it on this, so I'm actually going to take a step out here. Hopefully I won't get any feedback. So far, so good. Okay, great. Okay, so I'm Brent. I started StopSuite, and before that, I started something called Community Composting. We were a residential and small commercial food scrap collector. We also did composting and workshops and tons of other things to engage with our community. I was a software developer at the time doing freelance work, building websites for lawyers and restaurants and things I didn't care about too much other than trying to get paid. And before that, I actually was an opera singer. I did my bachelor's and master's in opera performance and literature. And I finished my master's degree and very quickly looked behind me and was like, I wonder why I did that. Because in front of me, I didn't see a future in opera. And also, I didn't feel the inspiration. I love opera, I love listening to it, and I love the music and things that are going on. But I would go out and perform, and everybody had white and gray hair. Where were the young people? And I just didn't feel the inspiration. I kind of reinvented myself, and I moved into a housing cooperative. We were also a food cooperative, and I was the food manager. We had a small composting facility in the backyard. It was just a 3-bin system, very simple. And I was so inspired then, even though my background didn't have much exposure to sustainability. We didn't even recycle in my house growing up. So it was really humbling and really eye-opening. And I remember we were sitting in a hot tub, actually, our community hot tub, as gross as that might sound, always trying to come up with different schemes and things. And one that we couldn't really shake was the idea of collecting compost from our community, composting it, and then returning it back to our customers. That was the general idea for a monthly fee. So we put an advertisement on Facebook and said, hey, are you interested? And we had 300 people say, yeah, I think I'm interested. Of course, only 50 of those people actually signed up, but that was enough for us to get started. We grew our business to up to 1,200 customers, which is pretty exciting. We would come to their house every week or every other week. That was the basic service. You got a 4-gallon bin. You can see them in the back of this truck, the 2 trucks on either side of this roll-off here. And that was our facility in downtown Rochester. So we lived in the Plymouth Exchange neighborhood, if you're familiar, which is right downtown. And we collected everything. We hired people from our community, and we picked it all up. We started to also think about how we can extend these services to be able to reach the community with a deeper impact. So we started to organize with local nonprofits to do donation drives. We would do a coat drive every year. We would do food drives. And we would also organize trash pickups in different neighborhoods to get the community involved. We did workshops. We had our own composting facility actually in downtown Rochester, and we would have schools come and we would give them a little demonstration of how everything worked. So this whole time I was a software developer, and I was kind of making my living on that while working on this kind of pet project called community composting. And I was really designing all of these tools to solve our own problems from the start. And I realized quickly there are a lot of logistical problems in collecting compost. It seems easy when you're sitting in a hot tub, but when you really take a look at it, it's a lot going on. You have billing. People are getting automatically charged every month. Not all those payments go through, and you've got to follow up. People are reaching out to you with all kinds of crazy questions. Trucks break down. People get sick, and you have to fill in. There are thousands of things that you have to try to organize and figure out. So I designed these tools to solve our own problems, and I didn't have any goals of selling it to anybody else. But what's really funny, and I was kind of reflecting when I was sitting here earlier, is I gave a presentation at VORS. I don't know what year it was, but it feels like 10 years ago. And I also had a small write-up in the Biocycle magazine where we showcased a little bit of the software that we had come up with. And we never advertised it, but we got a lot of interest. And so there was another compost company that said, hey, I've got these problems too. And I said, well, okay, maybe I'll launch another version of our software and you can run on that. And they said, okay. And then 2 more came, and then 5 more, and then 10 more. And suddenly I'm being torn in 2 directions. I've got this composting business, it's going great. I've got this software business, it's starting to really pick up. And I was being torn in 2 different directions. So ultimately I thought, okay, I think I can make a bigger impact if I can connect with all of these composters across the country. I'm gonna focus all of my energy there. We ended up selling community composting to our competitors, which is also kind of a funny thing. When I first learned we had competitors, I was really annoyed at that. And then it turned out that they were our saving grace and our only exit strategy and a way to continue what we had started in Rochester. It's still going on today, and that feels really, really good. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the stats with StopSuite. So far, we've had 21 million stops. A stop is a single visit to a customer. That could be a residential customer or a commercial customer or even an industrial customer. But 21 million of them have been recorded in our software since we started. And when I was making the slideshow, I was sitting in my database trying to count all these things up because I'd never really done it before. So it was a nice little treat for me to be able to figure out some of these numbers. Other industries are starting to get involved too. Some of them are born out of the composting companies. You know, composting companies say, hey, well, I'm already going to these people's houses every single week. What if I could also sell them renewable products? Or what if I could deliver a farm box, a CSA? And there's been other industries too, you know, that have gotten involved. Trash services, roll-offs, refillable zero waste solutions. We have data tracking at every single stop. So it's not like you're just going there and saying, yes, I did it. The driver is going there and they're triggering notifications to customers. They're completing orders. They're creating new actions on future routes to be able to pick up empty bottles of things that once had, you know, products in them. And all this isn't really possible at a real scale unless you have the tools to be able to facilitate that kind of work. It's been really exciting to be able to build these things for all of the composters and other industries out there. One feature that I just wanted to put in here is every single composter that we have uses email reminders. I know some of you in here probably get trash and recycling service or maybe even a compost service at your home, but I don't think those are actually sending you reminders. And you probably don't even have a web portal that you can log into. And I was just thinking, why? Why is that? And I still to this day haven't found a good answer. And maybe that's why we were born in the first place, because there's a big gap in this, this industry, and we were really excited to fill it. But we want to make our routes efficient, and it's really easy as human beings to forget to put your food scraps out or your recycling out. So it's really easy for a computer to send a reminder. Let's automate that. Let's automate everything that can be automated. Still give you the ability to manipulate things manually if you need to, because there's a lot of nuance to this. But automate everything. SMS reminders, 82% of our composters use SMS reminders. SMS has a 100% deliverability rate. That's not true. I think it's like 95. Email is like 50 or 60%. Not great, but SMS is really good. You get it on your phone, oh yeah, I better put my food scraps out tonight. And that little bit of a reminder makes a 10% difference on those routes of people missing their bins. The people who forgot to put their bin out, maybe half of them are gonna call in and say, oh, I didn't get my bin out. Or they're gonna try to run something by you and say, oh, you didn't pick up my bin. And with StopSuite, we take pictures whenever your bin is missing. So we say, oh, well, we took this picture when we came here this morning at 6:45. And they say, oh, maybe I didn't have my bin out in time. And the real secret underlying message there is they're not going to try that again, and we can move forward. We have haulers of all sizes, and this is something I really think is important. You know, some of our routes are less than 50 stops or even 15 stops, something like that. And that might be the only route that they have. We have clients that run their routes on bicycle in their small communities. It works well, and it's actually financially sustainable if you can do it right and if you have the right tools. We also have clients that have up to 800 stops on a single route. They have dense population, really great population density, and they're in communities that are a little bit more affluent and a little bit more liberal and are excited about composting. I have one client that has 60,000 composting customers. They come to their house every week, most of them, and service a 13-gallon bin, and they do 800 stops on a route. StopSuite has the ability to optimize up to 2,000 stops on a route instantly, so you can just do it. You wake up in the morning and your route is in the right order. It's totally optimized to reduce the amount of miles that you're going to drive, to reduce the amount of time that the driver is going to spend out there. I've got a few clients that I reached out to and said, hey, I'm giving a presentation. So I reached out to a few of my clients and said, hey, I have a presentation. I don't really know what to talk about. Would it be okay if I featured you and talked about just a couple aspects of your own operations there? The first one is Mr. Fox Composting. They're a really excellent organization. In fact, when we started community composting, we looked at Compost Now and Mr. Fox Composting as inspiration, because they were a few years older than us, and back then, I don't know, maybe there were 10 or so compost haulers, and I don't know how many there are now. We have 100 compost haulers on our platform currently, which is really exciting. So this is Mr. Fox Composting. They operate on the East Coast here in Maine and New Hampshire, and they do a lot of residential and a lot of commercial as well. And they offer 8-gallon bins for their residential. They have 32, 64, and 96-gallon services for their commercial. And you can see the general pricing here, at least for the residential side, $18 a month for biweekly and $36 for weekly there. I think what's really special and why I chose Mr. Fox Composting is they are doing such an excellent job selling products to their customers. So StopSuite also has an e-commerce solution built directly into your portal. You're a customer, and now you have this composter, and you've signed up, and you're excited about it. So how else can we engage with that company? And I think it is so cool, because these restaurants will go into their portal, and they'll order all of the compostable material from the collection company that's actually going to be processing that as well. So they get to really control what's going in, and they come and pick it out. And because they're already on the route, we can deliver these products on the same routes that we're picking up their food scraps and really close that circle really, really tightly. Now, this is a single product and just a little screenshot from one of the shops that we have, but they have hundreds of products. Many of our clients also do this same kind of thing, but it isn't just, you know, compostable bags and compostable materials. People are selling food subscriptions, CSAs, home delivery CSAs, egg shares, meat shares, veggie shares, all kinds of things. And it's all built into this idea of food comes in and food goes out, and it's a big circle. And I think that that piece of it kind of clicks for a lot of folks in a really positive way. Okay, the next one here, this is Little Green Bucket, and they're really cool. They're out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. They also have residential, commercial, and drop-off programs. In fact, a lot of our clients have drop-off programs where people simply come and drop off their food scraps. There are a bunch of different nuances to those models, but the most common that I see is you sign up for a subscription. Maybe it's $10 a month or something like that. And then you have access to one of their locations. You know, if you're in a rural place, that's fine. That's all you need to do. You don't have to police it. And then if you're in a place where maybe you need to put a lock on it, then they just send the new lock code every month or so to those customers through our platform. Now, Little Green Bucket, I chose this because I think this is a really smart strategy if you're in a rural area. So the basic idea with StopSuite is we do all the onboarding, all of the technical software, and really everything that you need to run this compost collection business. We try to offer the software so you can have one place to do it all. That includes communicating with customers, onboarding them, and automating the routes. You can kind of see a little bit over there on the right. We've got this shape on the map and then a bunch of markers with A on it. A means it's biweekly A. That means these customers get serviced every other week on the A frequency. So that's what you're looking at right there. And the reason they did that is because this was a new area and it's a bit more rural and they don't want to go there every week. So they have this special plan where you can actually get 2 buckets serviced every 2 weeks instead of 1 bucket serviced every 1 week, which is great. So now we're not going out there as often, but we're still reaching that community. StopSuite offers a ton of different frequencies, but by far the most common are weekly and bi-weekly. I really love the bi-weekly option. I was a little nervous when we rolled it out first because in July those bins can get really stinky, and when they sit for 2 weeks I was like, I don't know that I want to crack those open anymore. But as it turns out, it's really not too bad, and it offers your product at a lower price point, so it's a little bit more accessible. And it also is nice because a lot of people simply aren't producing that much food waste, so you can offer it to more folks. Okay, Black Bear Composting is out of Virginia here, and you can kind of see how they're servicing different little townships along the map over there. You can see a little bit about their stats. You kind of notice a theme here. We're often in the 5-gallon range for residential, and then we're getting into the 64s. I really like the 32s personally for, thank you, for commercial, just because, you know, 64 gallons at 8 pounds a gallon is a lot to wheel around, and 96 is pretty incredible too. So you really have to have some strong drivers or some heavy equipment to be able to service all of that. But they service many communities, and one thing I wanted to show for them is their impact statistics. StopSuite, every single stop that you go to, you record the weight of the bin. So you've got a little luggage scale, or you're just kind of guessing the weight. But we record that weight, and we put that weight back into the customer portal. So when the customer logs in, they can see their own personalized impact statistics. I can't stress how important that is. And it's hard because it's really heady to figure out all of the math. So I went into the greenhouse gas equivalency calculator. I looked at the WARM model. And usually when we onboard a new client, I say, hey, it's technically your business, you know, that's going to come up with these numbers that make sense for your operation. But let me get you started with some defaults that we've derived from, you know, the standard calculations that we see in the WARM model. And this is a pretty common example of that. So now I'm a customer, and I don't have to say, oh, well, that is carbon equivalency, and that reverts to like greenhouse gas equivalencies, and that's equivalent to this. We can just put them the statistics that they want in a nice image. You can digest it in a moment and really see the impact that you yourself are providing with that composter. Okay, so here are just a few features that we do. You can think of StopSuite as having 3 main sections. This is the management side, where you kind of run your whole business. You can access and communicate with your customers. You can optimize your routes. You can chat with your drivers. You can chat with your customers through the SMS portal. You even receive voicemails and make outgoing calls. You can run reports. And all kinds of things. Driver community CRM. You can see on the right, this is just a little bit of our routing optimization map as well. Okay, one thing I really love is our driver app. It's an Android app, and every driver has one. It's telling them where to go next. It's already pre-optimized. It records their odometer readings. It does pre-trip inspection, post-trip inspections. It also tracks their time, when they clock in and what they clock out, what kind of work they're doing, even if it's field work or washing buckets or turning rows. All of it gets tracked in here. On the right-hand side, there's a little add flag section. So this is, imagine you're a driver and you're at a stop, but one of these scenarios happened. Maybe there was contamination in this. So you can see to the right of contamination, there's a little SMS, an email, and a camera icon. And that means that when the driver gets there, and they add the contamination flag, one, they have to take a photo of the contamination. And then two, when they submit that stop, we immediately trigger a notification to the customer. And it says something like, hi, first name, so sorry we came to your house and we found contamination. Please help us make this a little smoother by reviewing our acceptable materials list. And all of that is just the click of a button for the driver. We just have to set it up in the first place to get it really seamless. I have a lot of clients who are like, yeah, we had this idea, but facilitating it is so annoying because the driver isn't going to write an email while they're in the truck. And it's really hard to remember to do anything when you're done with a route. I know that. When I'm done with a route, I want to go inside and clean the filth off of my body. So be able to just instantly communicate with these customers, whatever kind of feedback you need to give them in order to make your operation run a little smoother is really, really powerful. Okay, and lastly, this is the customer portal section. So we are a white label service. So if you do happen to find one of our clients, you won't ever see the StopSuite brand anywhere. We want to make sure that our clients' brands are being pushed and it feels like it's their own software. And in many ways it is, because it is so programmable and so flexible. So it's hosted on your own domain name. It's hosted on our client's domain name when they can add their own colors and logos and they don't really see the StopSuite branding anywhere. We offer service reminders, referral links. You can even skip service if you're going out of town. All of this can be automated, and every single one of them is potentially one less phone call to the company. So if we can put the power in the customer's hands to be able to do it themselves, we can run our own systems much more efficiently. We have an abandoned sign-up section too, which I'll just mention. We set out all of our service areas on a map. And the idea is pretty simple. Every service area corresponds to one of your routes. So if you sign up in this service area, you get assigned to that route. When somebody signs up in StopSuite, it's fully automated. No person has to do anything in order to get them set up. They get assigned to the right route. They get a welcome email. They get set up with automatic billing. They get put in their customer portal. And the first person who really needs to notice is the driver who gets to the stop and reads the driver action that was automatically created to deliver their bin. We mark the little flags, say bin delivered, and we say, welcome, we just dropped off your bin to your house. And all of that is just so streamlined. It's really made it a lot easier for people to get started and reduce some of the headache and burnout that can go along with a lot of these community composters. Okay, final thoughts. I bet I'm probably over my 5 minutes already. So I think that there is some mention of, it's kind of hard to make money in this scene, and I think that that's true. But I do think that it can be financially sustainable at all levels. But you have to have the right tools, and you have to keep it simple, particularly when you're getting started. So anybody out there who's kind of considering it, I hope that you'll feel encouraged and know that you can pick up. You can get on your bicycle. You can borrow your friend's truck. You can actually start a business pretty quickly and have it actually pay your bills and maybe even make a little extra money. If you are interested in getting started in community composting, go to the farmer's market. Don't buy advertisements. Just go there and shake hands and let people know that you exist, and this is an opportunity for them to be able to keep their food scraps out of the landfill. Even if you don't get a sign up every day, people see you, and there's this little seed that gets planted in their brain, and they may not sign up right away, but something's going to trigger it, and maybe they'll see that and pick it up a little bit later. Automate everything that you can. The benefits stack up really quickly, and we live in this technological world. It's really hard to keep up with everything. So a lot of the tools that we created are just trying to solve these really basic problems, but they stack up so much that it's easy to get bogged down if you're not automating everything. my greatest joy is reducing busy work. So much of my time is spent developing, but also onboarding clients. And one of the big tasks in that process is migrating data. And it can be a lot of work, but once we get everybody in the system, let's just say we have a new client and they have 1,000 customers that they're servicing. By the time they're onboarded and they've run for a few months, it's like a breath of fresh air. They can relax. And we spend so much time in front of our computers trying to do all of this work. But we need to tell the computers to work for us. And that's the real goal. And really my greatest joy is to be able to see the results of these people who have been stressing and straining, constantly on the phone, constantly in email, trying to keep up with their business, when the computer just could do it all automatically for them, and we can move on with our lives and do something that feels a little bit better. Collect all of the data within reason. Obviously, you can't collect everything, and sometimes it's inconvenient to collect data, but do keep your data. It's very important to look back and see how you've grown and how you are growing as well. Keep it dry. That stands for do not repeat yourself. This is a database kind of computer term, but I think it applies in many avenues of our life. Particularly if you're running business, try not to repeat yourself too much. You know, the data example is if you have an email address in your database, don't have that email address anywhere else. Reference the email address that you already have. You're not repeating yourself with that. And there's tons of other ways that you can just keep the data really, really simple. Leverage AI, but it can't solve everything. AI is such a hype word right now. I use it every day for programming, and it's a really great tool for that. It's also great for digesting tons of information and being concise, but it has its limits, and it can't solve every problem that's out there. Simple is better than complex. Complex is better than complicated. I struggle with a lot of these things because we go in so many different directions, and I want to keep it simple, but to be frank, it isn't simple. There's too much going on. So I like to say it's complex, not complicated. And that's all I have today. I hope this was informative for you. I kind of stayed up late a couple nights ago writing it all to make sure that I could get something entertaining for you all. Yeah, thank you so much. Any questions? Go ahead. Many are weighing, and some are estimating. Oh, sorry, yep. So the question was, are a lot of the haulers weighing at every single stop, or are they estimating? And the real answer is there's a hybrid. When I did it, I estimated. We started off with a scale on our truck, and it was really big and ugly. It was one of those, like, you know, analog scales. Anyway, we'd hang the bucket on it, and we'd go the number, and then I got to the point where I was weighing the bucket in my hand before I put it up there, and I would challenge myself to see how close I could get, and I was always within a pound or two. And then one day our scale broke, and I said, okay, guys, we're just going to guess the weight because it's pretty accurate. We're not billing based on weight. We're trying to get a sense of the diversion. So now we need one less thing. The driver has a little game that they play when they're bringing the little bin back to their truck, and they weigh it from there. We also have other weighing stations too, like if you're going to a tipping station and you get a tipping fee or something like that, you can record the actual weight of the vehicle, you know, before and after as well. Any other questions? Oh, over here.
I like the comment that people have so many talents and can learn so many things. That's part of why we do it. How did you go from operator to computer?
Yeah, how did I go from opera singer to composter? I look back and I just can't even believe this has been my life. You know, I think the big thing is you go through school and you go through this education system. And I went to a private school, it was a college preparatory school, and there was such a push for you to go to college so that you could get a job and make a lot of money. And that was the carrot that I had been chasing until the day that I graduated with my master's degree in opera. And I looked at my future and I was like, I'm not going to make any money doing this. And I don't feel that great about doing it either. So what am I doing? So I got a job as a waiter. And when I got my first web client, just doing their website, I quit being a waiter because it was really stressful. And then I lived in this community and you know, the rest is history. We started this composting company. I used my software skills to try to learn how to build something much more complex and actually helpful for my own process. The question is, am I willing to sing a couple lines of opera? And the answer is no.
Well, thank you very much. Yeah. A very excellent panel. Thank you. Let's give a big round of this whole crew. Thank you. So you've all been very patient, and we're now at the time we get a break. Lunch officially starts at 12:15. The next sessions will start at 1:45. One of them will be right here, and the other two will be in the Red School house. Any other housekeeping, Natasha? Yes. Yeah. I'm sorry, what's that? Yes. Yeah, well, they're handling the composting of the lunch here. We're going to, at the reception later, I'll take it back to Brattleboro.
Yes, so Sodexo is taking care of everything here, but Bob is taking everything, including the compostable products, from the compost mixer networking event at Chandler Center for the Arts. So we're set there. And so thank you guys all for this session. I was able to listen to the last part of it. They've set out lunch. If you want to go ahead and get started or mill around and talk to the exhibitors, we had a whole suite of technical challenges at the Red Schoolhouse. So they may be coming, running a few minutes late, but we're going into like a 90-ish minute lunch break, networking, hanging out session, catching up with folks. So I will probably, once everyone is here, do some more little bit of housekeeping. But in the meantime, if you have any questions for us, let me know. Come find me. I'll be sitting at the CAV table. And yeah, make yourselves comfortable and have fun.